Hello and welcome to Jill Cameron Creations. Today we're going to focus on some ink blending with domed ink blenders by scrapbook.com, and I have a couple tips for you while we're doing that. I am using the Wish Upon a Star. Nope, that's not the name of that stamp set. The name of that stamp set is Upon a Star by Fawn, and then I'm also using Forest Feast. I'm going to use the big stump image from that to prop up my little critters on. So the first thing that I did for this particular card is I went ahead and I white heat embossed a bunch of the stars in the background at the top of the card. I'm using a piece of temporary paper there for a mask, and it's an Avery label that is a temporary label, and I literally just cut it to what size I needed it for, and that's it. The scalloped panel that I am going to ink blend on and that I'm doing this heat embossing on is actually a cut file. It's available over on my website, and I'll have a link to it below in the description, along with all the products that I use today in this video. So I white heat embossed all of the stars on the background of the panel, and then I'm going to ink blend with them some Distress inks. I'm not using Distress Oxide inks because Distress Oxide inks blend so well and they are so beautiful. But I've seen a lot of people make comments that they have a hard time getting Distress inks to actually blend very well as well as Distress Oxide inks. There's a couple things to remember if you're using non-pigment ink to ink blend with. Number one, it is a transparent ink. It's going to be see-through. You're going to see splotches of white through it. You're going to see marks from it in some cases, depending on the ink tool and how much ink you actually put on the paper. Number two, when you're using something such as Distress inks, you are going, or just regular dye inks, that you need to actually do it in layers of color and not just one time. You're going to need to do this, and sorry, my big fat purple head gets in the way there. You're going to need to do this in very thick layers of, very thin layers of ink, not thick layers of ink. That actually limits the marks on the paper from your ink blending tools. Now you will notice when I'm using the ink blending dome tools here, from the ink blending domed sponges here from scrapbook.com, that I don't really start off the paper. The reason for that is there's no edge to the top of that foam there, so it doesn't actually leave a mark. I started in the middle there. You can see where I started, and it looks just like a little pounce mark, but I literally don't start off the paper with these. I don't have to. I don't get that hard edge as I would with the flat round blending sponges that go on the end of these tools. I start on the edge of my paper because I want the edges to be darker, but I could start in the middle with these, and that's one thing that I really do like about them. The other thing that I like about these is the domed blenders like this is that they seem to hold the ink on the outer edge of the sponge instead of absorbing a lot of ink. One thing that you will definitely want to make sure of when you start to ink blend is that your actual ink pad is relatively juicy. The drier the ink pad, the harder time you're going to have to get ink on your ink blending tool, and the more you're going to have to press into that paper, the tighter your hand's going to get, and you're not going to get good results. So make sure you have enough ink in your ink pad. I actually had to stop and re-ink my Chip Sapphire stamp pad here that I have, and it was just way too dry. I didn't get any ink from it at all, hardly, and I was not getting the results that I wanted. Also, like I said, you want to do this in layers. Go back and forth between your colors and make sure that it's the right brightness where you want it. The reason that I'm holding this yellow piece of paper here is so that I don't get fingerprints in my ink blending here, because Distress inks will react to the oils in your fingers. So keep that in mind when you're doing your ink blending as well, is hold on to it with a spare piece of paper. I went over top of all of my white embossing there with a dry cloth and just picked up the ink that was on it so that the white would actually look white. I am flicking on some Perfect Pearls I have an old spray bottle of Perfect Pearls that I mix Perfect Pearls in continuously. I've had it for a really long time, and I just continue to use it. Sometimes I will spray it, and sometimes I just take it out and flick it like I did there, and put the spots out there. So for the mask, I'm using the Avery temporary labels. It's a full sheet, and I just cut it down to whatever I need it for. And I cut these down to like card size, the A2 card size, and then I'll cut them however I need to, and I just did a random arc on it, and that was it. The Mowed Lawn ink cube that I have here is a little on the dry side. I don't have a re-inker for it. I'm actually going to go find those today, see if I can't find those locally and pick those up. So you actually see a little bit more of the white through the paper, or the white of the paper through than I wanted it to. But that's okay. I went ahead and used the chip sapphire at the bottom, and that actually kind of helped deepen that color up a little bit. And I went back and forth with it. I did catch the edge of the ink pad on the end of my blending tool, and you can see where I got extra ink in that line on my blending tool. That is absolutely fine, because guess what? It gave some texture to my ink blending, and it blends out. It softens out, and you don't even see it in the end product because of what I have on my card here. So I really just ink blended this, and notice I keep going back and forth with different colors, and I also added that black soot on the very edges of it to give it that really deep look there. For the critters, I Copic colored them, and for the stump, I colored it in a dark chocolate from scrapbook.com, and then I took a Copic marker and filled it in on where there's some stripes and stuff on it, and I filled that in on that particular stamp. I did zoom out so you could see what I was doing here. My workspace is a total wreck from this card. And also, while I was doing this card, I had this, y'all know I'm a huge music fan, and I had one of my favorite songs is Incubus, and it's by Incubus, and it was Wish You Were Here, and there's a line in the song, and it's the sky resembles a backlit canopy with holes punched in it. And I absolutely, that song was playing in my head while I was making this card, because that's what I thought about when I was making it, was that song for some reason. And also, in light of everything that's going on, I wanted to have a happy note on our card here. So it says, "Our friendship is written in the stars." And I absolutely love that. I think that's so much fun. And we have a bunny, we have 2 bunnies and 2 foxes on the card. And I popped up the fox and the bunny together, and then put the 2 smaller ones, like they look like they're sitting in front of them, on our big old stump there. And it was nothing fancy with the Copic coloring. I actually took this and I put it, I ended up having to fussy cut these out, and y'all know how much I don't like fussy cutting. But some things happened, and I ended up having to fussy cut these bad boys out, and it is what it is. I think it looks really cute on the card. It looks really adorable on the card, so I'm really happy with how that turned out. And I wanted to make sure of where I needed to put my stump and all that kind of stuff. The sentiment is also from the Upon a Star stamp set, and I used some VersaFine Onyx Black ink to stamp that, and then embossed it in clear embossing powder and trimmed that sentiment out. And then I'm going to pop that up here on the front of our card. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will definitely link to the domed ink blenders down below, and I hope you check those out. They have a really good price point, and I really do like those. And also, I'll have the link to the scalloped panels that for slimline cards that's over on my website, as well as the scalloped frames that's over on my website as well, so that you can have some pretty little scallops over on your slimline cards too. Thanks so much for joining me today. Don't forget to subscribe.